What's up guys, this is your friend and we are back with a new fanfic part 1. Which is what if Naruto was abandoned at age 5 and Konoha couldn't find him part 1. And if you enjoy this fanfic then please press the like button and subscribe to my channel Anime Hub 1.2 for more fanfic like this. And now let's start the fanfic. 5-year-old Naruto Uzumaki was running down the streets of the ninja village of Konohagakure. He was wearing a white shirt with a red swirl on the back similar to those on the back of the Chunin and Junin flak jackets of the ninja of the village. As well as black baggy pants and black kids' boots, all of which looked old, dirty, and worn out. His face had some mud on it as well as 3 distinct whisker marks on his face, with golden hair that looked like it was bathed in sunlight, yet right now was covered in a little dirt. He was currently running down the street laughing tauntingly at 3 Uchiha police force officers pursuing him. "Get back here you demon Gaki," yelled the oldest looking one with silver hair going off to one side named Yashira. The other 2 were yelling similar things. "Ha ha ha, you never catch me losers," laughed Naruto as he continued to run down one of Konoha's main market district streets, while ignoring the hateful stares from majority of the villagers. He got some from some of the ninja as well, but every time he saw one and they saw him, they tried to chase him, something that scared him to no end. So he hid from them all the time, or tried to until these 3 Uchiha police force guys saw him. Despite me's of people setting up for the festival tonight, Naruto's little legs and short stature allowed him to run through the crowded streets with ease, unlike the Uchiha police force officers. He kept running until he ran into a dark side alley full of old boxes and dumpsters rather quickly, but he was slow enough that the still crowd struggling police members saw. Regrouping at the alley, the 3 Uchiha cursed as they saw it was empty. Yashira called out, "Shit, we lost him, he has to be around here somewhere. Split up, if you don't find him after 2 hours report back to HQ. Go." With that Yashira ran down the alley's other end and went right, the other who followed went left, and the third went back the way they came and ran farther down the market street. A couple of seconds after the 3 police members were gone, a mat was moved from atop one of the boxes. It was quickly thrown away by a laughing young Naruto who was holding his gut in mirth. "Those bakas," thought an amused Naruto. Knowing he had to leave the area before more mysterious people went looking for him, or those scary masked guys showed up. Naruto was thinking of a place to go. Can't go back to the orphanage, they'd rat me out in an instant, and they were horrible to me and kicked me out for some stupid reason. Don't want to go back to the forest yet. Can't go back to Fort Naruto in that other alley, it was found by those weird people with masks that were also looking for me. Anybody looking for me that hard, can't mean anything good for me. Yet, I still don't understand why people don't like me. I'm hated for some reason by this village, but I'll show them that I'm no demon." Naruto just jumped out of his box and sighed before smiling quickly a few seconds later. "No use feeling down. I know, maybe I'll go to the park and try making friends again, and maybe finally today I'll see that nice old man again. Even though it's getting late, but I'll still try. For I'm not giving up. Datbeo," thought Naruto excitedly and determinedly before his stomach rumbled a nd hurt. Rubbing his stomach, he laughed sheepishly before a depressing look came on his face. Talking to himself quietly and barely about a whisper he stated, "But first I got to find some food, I haven't eaten in a while." Running fast he tried to find a person to steal food from, something he dreaded doing. Normally he would only take an apple or a small loaf of bread since he saw stealing as a bad crime and something you shouldn't do. Yet the hunger pains were getting worse so he had to take more food. His best catch were bentos he took from picnics, but no matter where he took food from he always said a prayer for the people that he stole from so they would somehow get twice the food he stole. He really detested stealing. Yet he had no money and he couldn't find the nice old man that always helped him. Plus no one else seemed to be. So he was off to find a mark to steal from since he hadn't eaten practically anything besides a bread loaf in 3 days. Finding two people carrying food, he decided to follow them to see if he could get a chance to take anything. One was teenage girl with purple hair tied and done in a way that reminded Naruto of a pineapple, wearing a tan trench coat and matching tan skirt. Blue ninja shoes, with Anbu shin guards and mesh undershirt. She seemed to be making lots of noise while bugging this guy with a few nasty scars on his face, with a black bandana, and a large black trench coat and ninja shoes. Naruto also saw that they were wearing the leaf headband signifying them as Leaf Ninja. Naruto always got the worst beatings from the ninja, but the girl was carrying food bags of some sort, and he liked a challenge. In the past he had to steal from ninjas when the opportunities presented themselves to get food. Water he normally got out of bird baths, buckets, and anywhere he could find it, and that stream in the forest marked 44. Yet, he didn't want to take a risk in a beating, but it only happened when he first started living on the streets a little over a year ago. The mean orphanage matron kicked him out 4 days before this very festival he ped up. Not knowing how to take care of himself, or the dangers, he was almost immediately halted. From that day to the day after the festival were hell, and he didn't even remember the last day, just the pain. The constant beatings he received, and random objects being thrown at him, and the foul words they said, especially when they missed. On the last day it was the worst, and when he woke up he saw an old nurse about to stab him with a knife, in this weird white-walled room, that smelled funny, while on a lumpy bed. He screamed and pushed the lady, and then he saw these two weird masked people enter the room and rush him and the lady. He didn't think but jumped out the open window from the second floor, and despite the pain on left leg, he ran, and has been in hiding ever since while systematically developing a fear of the masked people. Coming back out of his painful memories, he noticed that stoic and annoyed man toward the women was carrying something that looked like what was described to him once as a cake from the nice old man. He always wanted to try cake ever since, and the chocolate the man gave him at the orphanage was really good. Could cake be that good too? He had always wondered. He had to try it, he told himself, now determined to get some of it no matter the cost. Even though he hated stealing, he didn't want to pee up this chance. He kept trailing them for a few blocks, while they kept talking. Eventually they made it to a place in the center or so in the village. The building was huge, but had few windows. The small blonde-haired Naruto saw them go in, and before the door closed the blonde snuck in silently after them. Inside, he saw the two check in at a front desk covered in bars with a small hand slot, and then proceed into a similar set of doors to the ones they came into. All the while Naruto was following, and once again snuck in before the doors closed. He hid behind a couch at the end of the hall near the door that all of them came from. The hall itself white, with a few black couches and many brown doors. Just as quickly as they entered the room they left, while the women seemed very excited, the man was looking a little annoyed. After making sure the coast was clear, Naruto quietly went into the room. The room had several couches and chairs, and a few decorative plants here and there. That's not what caught young Naruto's attention though. What he saw had him thinking, jackpot. There were many dishes of random foods, and one big white frosted cake on several foldable brown and or black tables. Naruto would have cried in happiness, had he not grabbed a plate, and stared dishing up some of the food, with some utensils and chopsticks he found next them. He had to admit the food was great once he started inhaling it. Yugao Azuki dressed in the typical Konoha Anbu gear with a gray flak jacket arm and shin guards and gray ninja shoes, while wearing a cat Anbu mask. The thing that stood out the most was her flowing purple hair and violet tanto on her back. The Anbu captain was having a sad day, a very sad day, or should we say year. Even her boyfriend Hayate couldn't cheer her up most of this year. A few months back she found out that her sensei's son was living on the streets. She was no fool. She knew as well as her boyfriend who Naruto really was, and it pained both of them for a hero to be treated as such. Hayate promised to look for him too on his downtime. Something that made Yugao fall in love with him all over again. Outside of Kakashi, no one worked as much for the mission to find the long-lost Naruto in her own village than her. She spent months on the mission and sometimes days on end, and she could tell it pained the third to do so, but he had to put the village first and send most of the Anbu out on other missions. Though it seemed like her and Kakashi kept getting the as the Anbu started calling it, find the Gaki mission, something that endeared her towards the third. Many ninja were stumped how a little kid could evade them in their own ninja village for so long. Finding Naruto was becoming a challenge. Originally some thought he was dead, until they found traces of him in various areas. They hit a big break about a month ago when they found what looked to be a home made of boxes in a lightly used alley on the east side of town that an Inuzuka Chunin confirmed. Ed had Naruto's scent everywhere. It looked recently used, and search parties were renewed with vigor, though they still couldn't find him. Unknown to them was that Danzo Shimura's NE couldn't find him either, something that pissed the man off to no end, though he never showed it. Unknown to Naruto was that he gained a lot of ANBUs and Junin's eternal respect that they couldn't find him or even a hair of him for almost a year in their own ninja village. Even some non-Naruto hating shinobi that weren't Anbu or Junin looked on their spare time, but results varied. Though Otokubetsu Junin Genma Shiranui and two newly minted Chunin buddies together Aruka Yumino and Suzumi Sarugaku could have sworn they saw Naruto in the crowd but couldn't find him anywhere they looked after the sightings. Though it did start the major manhunts over again. Now, Yugao was in every one of these hunts, but the fact that she couldn't find him still saddened her to no end. Checking her watch she found she was well past her search time and feeling tired so she depressingly decided to call it quits today. She had been searching for 3 whole days. Speaking quietly to herself she said, "Sorry Kushina-sensei, I'll find him one day." She didn't know how right she was. Heading towards Anbu HQ, after signing in and taking off her cat Anbu mask, and putting it in a seal on her right guard, something she RNED from her sensei, which didn't help her mood, she decided to take a quick nap before the party since she promised Anko she would try her cake before she left, despite wanting to go home. How someone as tomboyish and sadistic as Anko could make some of the best sweets in the world is beyond me. She thought before opening the door to a huge shock that hit her like a ton of bricks. There in Anbu HQ was the very person the entirety of the Konoha Anbu and Ninja Force have been looking for over a year, who she was looking for, and the irony was not lost to her. She also couldn't help but be amazed at the amount of food he was eating or how fast. He could beat Anko in speed of shoveling food in she thought, but was brought out of her musings by Naruto turning his head up and looking at her. Naruto was enjoying the food, especially the cake. He ate 1/4 of it already, as well as a lot of the other foods. Since he hadn't eaten in long time or that much for that matter he figured that he could splurge. Hunger putting him in a false sense of security, and even making him forget how much he hated to steal, since the food was so good. Survival and childishness really. After finishing another plate he looked up and what he saw horrified him. There was a woman, though he thought she was pretty, but someone had caught him stealing and now he was going to get beaten like always. He slowly got out of his chair and curled into a ball on the floor while he closed his eyes and waited. Yugao for her part couldn't fathom why he was doing that until it hit her like a ton of bricks. He thought he was going to be beaten for this transgression. Yugao knew that what she did next would be really important, so she decided to play dumb. She quietly but quickly walked up to him and asked who he was, something she could see shocked him. There was also something in his eyes she couldn't pinpoint, but could tell one was the feeling for longing and another was extreme pain. To her eternal surprise he hopped up and looked at her with his finger on his mouth and his head turned to the side as if he was thinking. She thought that at this moment he looked absolutely adorable and the whisker marks weren't helping. She had to force herself not to kawaii and glomp the poor kid, though she did take out a camera and take a picture of the boy who seemed distracted, before putting it back into her pack. Yugao could see 1,000 uses for this picture later. Though the kid seemed to see the flash, and it broke him out of his stupor and surprise. Naruto was still very confused by why the pretty lady was looking at him, that he saw a flash and then turned to her wondering what just happened. So he had to ask, "Who are you, pretty lady?" Yugao for the life of her blushed but didn't know if she should laugh or hit the gaki, all the while thinking that this, she realized, clueless kid was going to be a chick magnet later in life. He's going to definitely look like his father, but if he's clueless like him too, oh, dear. Shaking herself out of her thoughts of the future, she introduced herself as Yugao Azuki, but he could call her Yugao. "I'm Naruto Uzumaki, Dadbeo, Yugao-chan." She smiled and ruffled his head before his stomach growled. She giggled, and started fixing a plate of food for him, which consisted of a lot of vegetables, some fruit, and more grains. Since she noticed he went after the meat, potatoes, and sweets. Especially the sweets, and she so hoped that Anko wouldn't be mad about the cake. She was no doctor, but she knew Naruto needed some nutrients in him, from a lack of diet. Turning around, she saw Naruto shifting his feet and looking down. When she turned around and handed him a plate, Naruto started crying. "I'm sorry for stealing your food, I was so hungry, it's been a while since I ate. I'll work it off." Yugao was angry but didn't show it. She wasn't angry with Naruto. No, he was innocently trying to survive. She was angry with most of Konoha and some of the council for letting this poor boy suffer from their ignorance. He was a hero that protected them every day, and this is what they do to him. Ignore, torture, and starve him. He was a child and she would be damned if she let this continue. She would adopt the boy no matter the consequences, and anyone would be damned if they got in the way. She would also contact Tsunade if she had to. Her sensei told her the connection the Uzumaki and Senju clans had between them as cousin clans, and how Kushina's aunt married the first Hokage Hashirama. She would do this all for Naruto and be damned the consequence if it made his life one day better. She though had to think of now for him. "It's okay, Naruto-kun, why don't you come sit back at the table with your Oni-chan, and have some more food? You're obviously still hungry," she said with a smile that would have melted any man in Konoha. Naruto didn't seem to care about that, he just picked his head in shock at what she was implying. Oni-chan seemed foreign to him, like he didn't know what she was saying. His shock was still evident. He started to act like a statue, before a rare smile came across his face. A smile that warmed Yugao's heart for some reason, and she though would definitely be getting him some girls in the future. "Okay, Oni-chan," and he sat at the table waiting for her, but wasn't waiting long as she sat down across from him, while simultaneously setting the plate she made down in front of him. One look at the plate and Naruto crossed his arms, and shook his head, and with a, "No vegetables." Yugao's left eye started twitching, and by now most guys, Anbu, and even Hayate included, would be seen running, but Naruto didn't know this. Plus Yugao got an idea from what her sensei said she used against her husband a lot. She did the dreaded puppy eyes no jutsu on the unsuspecting Naruto. Naruto was stubborn and held, but barley, and shook his head. Yugao could tell this, and although surprised, she decided to add an incentive with the jutsu since she now realized it was Naruto's birthday today, but up the stakes as well. "Your new Oni-chan will let you have the rest of that cake if you eat this whole plate, plus one more of my choosing." All the while praying Anko wouldn't kill her instead, though she knew Anko had a soft spot for the boy as well for their similar situations. He agreed so fast and practically inhaled the food, and the second plate of her choosing. Although she was a bit merciful and only gave him half the vegetables then the first one and put beef and rice on his plate in the rest of it, it didn't stop him from inhaling this plate as well. Something she thought she would have to work at with him, or at least get it to his mother's level of self-control. Keeping her promise, she said that he could eat the cake, but he had to do so slowly. He nodded while she asked him questions as innocently and casually as she could in the form of light conversation. After asking where he lived, he told her that he lived in many places. He explained he made a lot of forts. He rather dramatically and affectionately called them all Fort Naruto, which caused her to giggle. his antics reminding her of both his parents in many different ways. Never stopping from his cake, he went on to tell her how some civilians or ninja found some of the places and beat him out of it or wrecked it so he wouldn't come back. He never noticed her eyes hiding in her hair or the dark look on her face. Hell, you probably, if you looked close enough, see hell itself behind her. He then explained how he broke into the junkyard or the sewer, but couldn't get comfortable in those places, so he went to some forest with 44 on it and stayed in there for a couple of days here and there. This scared her to death. She couldn't believe that he would go in there or how he survived thus far. Hell, she was surprised Anko didn't know he went in there since that was her private spot and training field. Damn, she thought. No wonder we couldn't find him. He was constantly moving and he kept going places we wouldn't dream of. He ate another 1/4 of the cake through his story, and she was about to tell him that they were going to visit the old man or Gigi since she remembered what the Hokage told the Anbu and some ninja what Naruto called him. Another thing just like his mother, but never got the chance. A tiger Tenzo masked Anbu came in that looked exactly like her except he had a mask on and his tanto was wooden. Naruto saw him and absolute primal fear came on his face, something that was not missed by either Yugao or Tenzo. Yugao turned her head to address the still surprised Tenzo, but was not expecting Naruto to run away. Though she wanted to face Palm so badly when she noticed that despite his shown fear he was running with the cake in both of his tiny hands. He booked past her and under Tenzo's legs, cake and all, and was heading for the entrance. Yugao and Tenzo in pursuit. Naruto was scared of the masked guys and didn't think. He saw how Yugao was familiar with the other one and thought she betrayed him to keep him there till others showed up and they could beat him. He grabbed the cake without thinking and headed to the door, and under the masked guy's legs. Making it to the door, he noticed the tall, dark, and scarred man that he followed into the building but not the young women. Surprise was evident on his face before Naruto tripped and then cake was sent flying toward him. The other half of the cake ended right up on Ibiki Morino's face, something that he would later have a hard time living down. Naruto quickly got up and booked for the door again as the scarred man was trying to wipe his face off. This time sliding under the man, he booked for the door. Getting through that one, he didn't stop as whoever was beyond the counter was yelling out at him to stop, and he made it out the other door. All the while hearing a loud whistle in the background. He didn't know where he was heading, but he figured the park was the best place to hide and hope the scary masked men and women didn't get him. Yugao for her part was confused as to why Naruto was scared of Tenzo. She knew Tenzo wasn't a Naruto hater nor that he would do anything to hurt him. In fact, he was one of the few Anbu that worked hard to find her new little brother. Nonetheless, she knew they had to get him back, so she blew the Anbu whistle to get all neighboring Anbu to her location pronto. The whistle was forbidden to use for just anything as it took Anbu from their ignored tasks in the vicinity of the whistle, which only works for that same Anbu's chakra s ignature, to help with what is deemed an immediate emergency of the highest caliber, and all Anbu who responded would get what they call a whistle bonus in pay. Plus, civilians knew that it is serious when the whistle is used and that the sound of it is known to cause a panic. These are the reasons that it is only under very emergency situations that said whistle is used. Yugao hoped no civilians would hear the whistle, which none did, but knew she wasn't going to get into trouble for using the thing. She knew that practically all the Anbu wanted this mission wrapped up, and that the Hokage was looking for his surrogate grandson. So no harm done. But she was not letting Naruto spend another night on these streets, especially being so close. She only hoped that whatever the fear was, he would overcome it. She and Ibiki then brought over 20 Anbu up to speed and told them to fan out in teams of 2. Yugao and Tenzo quickly agreed to be a team, and Yugao was swiftly put in charge as head Anbu of the other teams, since she was also the only Anbu captain among them. She quickly put on her cat mask again and despite being up for over 3 days went out to find her little brother. Naruto, being as scared as he was, and with a few tears in his eyes at what he thought as betrayal, headed to the park to find a nice place to cry and hopeful. Why sleep? He was weaving in and out of the streets for several blocks very quickly. Seeing the forested part, he thought it would be a good idea to make a detour through the woods to look for a new place to build a new fort Naruto later after his escape. Rushing through the trees, he stopped and hid behind one to catch his breath when he suddenly heard talking. Curiously looking over, he saw a sight that angered him, and made him forget about the past few minutes, or how he lost that delicious cake. A small short girl was surrounded by three somewhat older looking boys who were making fun of her. She had short Heim-style hair with a blue clip on the left side, was wearing a light blue yakuta with two sakura petals on it, and had lavender-tinted pupil-less white eyes that he thought were pret. Tai. See guys, I told you she was a weakling, she's probably stuck up like the rest of the Hyuga clan, said the apparent leader of the group. The others just laughed and agreed. The girl looked frightened, and was shaking and crying. Please santo op, stuttered and begged the girl. Naruto, watching this little scene, was getting angrier. I'll get them for sure for this, he thought with determination in his eyes. She should apologize for her clan's rude actions, said the skinny one in front of her. Agreed, said the apparent leader, on her hands and knees at that, and he never got to finish as a rock hit him in the back of the head. Turning around, while simultaneously rubbing his head with his left hand, he and the other two boys were on alert. Who threw that? Demanded the leader. Naruto jumped out from his hiding spot behind the tree, stuck his tongue out, turned around and ran back behind the tree. Get him, yelled the leader at the others as they ran behind the tree in both shock and anger. As they were rounding the tree, Naruto swung back a large branch and let it go. Before the three older kids could act, it promptly hit them square in their faces, sending them tumbling down to the ground in a heap. The three bullies looked up in a daze, before all three were punched hard in their faces. With a big grin and pointing toward the girl, Naruto declared, "That's for her, you baka bullies." Naruto never noticed the big blush that appeared on the girl's face after he declared that. The bullies seemed to be coming around after that declaration, and in complete spontaneous yet protective action while laughing at the bullies, he grabbed one of the still blushing girl's free hands, and ran. As the duo continued to run to nowhere in particular through the park, Naruto never noticed the girl's now completely red face, which could rival a tomato in redness, and was still getting darker. They kept running all of through the wooded sections of the park, but finally stopped running near a pond surrounded by rocks of varying sizes and under a shady willow. The girl was panting, but Naruto was only a little winded. After getting his bearings, Naruto held out his hand and said, "Naruto Uzumaki, want to be my friend?" The girl was still red and looked at his hand for a long second, until she shyly shook his hand and stuttered, "Hi Anata Hyuuuuga, de thank you for saving me, and suri I be furry nds with yo you." Quote. Naruto just flashed her his foxy grin, before doing what could only be described as a kitty victory dance while shouting, "I got my very first friend, Yahoo!" Hinata could only giggle at his antics. Still blushing but with only a tinge, she finally got a good look at her savior, and all she could think was, "Those whisker marks are cute." Her blush, which was mostly gone by now, was now once again in full swing. Naruto never noticed, before he suddenly hugged Hinata tightly as she swung her arms up and down in panic. Almost fainting. "Yeah, we'll be the best of friends, okay," yelled Naruto excitedly. In which Hinata, blushing redder than a tomato even and looking more like a volcano after bursting, could only nod in emberment and slight happiness. Letting her go, excitingly asked her if she wanted to play tag, and she, not trusting her voice, could only nod. Naruto was having fun for the first time he could recall, and they were having so much fun that they forgot all of the important stuff like the kids they were, and missed that it was getting dark. They mostly played tag, but also I Spy and Hide and Go Seek. The fun and games finally hit a snag when Naruto, being it in another game of tag, tripped again, and tagged Hinata on the chest where her S would come in. She went into full-fledged blush mode, and started to wobble. Remembering her mother, who was joking at the time and not that she knew, telling her that a guy touching her chest was a sign of marriage. Naruto, being the dense uneducated but seriously dense kid that he was, started to panic. "Hinata-chan, are you okay? You're not sick, are you?" asked Naruto as he steadfastly put his forehead to hers. Poor little Hinata, already on the edge of fainting, only had two thoughts before ping out finally. "He see. Ald me Hinata-chan, and, he's touching me close again," before promptly ping out. Naruto, still in a panic and still with a childlike mind, could only think of one thing: I got to find a doctor, and fast. Not wanting to leave his new best friend by herself, he softly and gently grabbed her arms and put them around his neck and positioned her around so he was carrying her on his back. Remembering that there was a festival celebrating the Yondaime's defeat of the Kyuubi, Naruto figured that someone there would be able to help him. "I was hoping to enjoy it tonight, since the orphanage lady never let me go," he thought. His thoughts quickly went to his new friend and he knew he had something else to do. Then running swiftly, he started running out of Konoha's main park to the city, just as the sun was going down. Horizon Sarutobi, the third Hokage, the professor of all shinobi, was having one of those days. The only word to describe it was, shit. He was going to spend a quiet and lovely evening with his family, when life and karma teamed together, the real bitches they can be, decided not to grant him such a privilege. An hour and a half ago, Kat and several Anbu tried to apprehend his elusive adopted grandson Naruto Uzumaki after he somehow broke into Anbu HQ. The report was interesting to take, and Kat promised a very detailed report later and with some peculiar info she suspected. It was the first sighting in 2 weeks, despite finding his makeshift home a month before. Sarutobi felt nothing but unadulterated shame that he failed his successor and his old friend Toshiya Uzumaki. He promised his successor Minato Namikaze that he would protect his son, and he failed rather horribly. He honestly thought the orphanage would protect Naruto, but he realized how naive he was about that. After finding out that Naruto's allowance that he was supposed to be getting and started supposed to be getting since he was 3. Instead, Sarutobi finds out that the matron and 3 orphanage Oshiates took most of it, if not all his money since he started receiving it. To top it off, they kicked him out of the orphanage over a year ago and were still taking his money. They only found this out because Sarutobi himself decided to spontaneously visit him on his way home after work 2 days after the event. The third Hokage was furious to say the least. After an all-expense-paid trip to Ibiki and Anko, the whole story comes out. Naruto got extra chores, almost none of his allowance, was shut off from the other kids, taught almost nothing at the orphanage via basic schooling or almost anything at all, locked in his room a lot, given meager amounts of food, and simply kicked out and being called ungrateful for sneaking out of his locked room and getting caught eating food in the kitchen. The matron was promptly executed, and the 3 Oshiates were given a 30-year sentence in jail of hard labor. That was only after the third took back and gave all the money that they stole back into Naruto's family account with interest, and took enough money out of all of them to cover the purchase of a nice apartment building in both the third's and Naruto's name, that he was going to give to Naruto F. All rights over, when they found him. Find him they did with half his bones broken in his body and some severe lacerations, eternal bleeding, and head trauma. The civilians that were found doing this to him were later tortured and executed. Plus 1 civilian getting 3 years in jail for supplying the mob with Naruto's location. Then when Naruto wakes up, he sees a nurse trying to kill him, and of all the crazy things he could do, he pushes her out of the way and jumps from his 2-story hospital room, and escapes as Anbu close in. The nurse was tortured and executed that same night, and only a few have seen Naruto since. All this was a lesson to the rest of the population, or so Sarutobi hoped would be. Although he himself felt and knows that most of the villagers were lying when they said, haven't seen him, yet he knew how unethical, politically insane, and how much unwanted attention it would cause if he gave half the village to Ibiki and Anko for interrogation. Though it did put a small smile on his face when he realized he would get their eternal favor if he did. The shame of not protecting his good friend Toshiya's grandson and his predecessor's son though was still getting to him. He was defiantly going to make it up to Naruto when he found him, though he apologetically cursed the boy for being so good at hiding, to the point where none of his Anbu old find him. Although a small part still felt happy that he kept Naruto away from Danzo and kept his inheritance safe. Especially the money with the bank owner, an old friend of Minato and Kushina, and an ex-ninja, and one of only 4 civilian council members that weren't a pain in his. However, that relief was short-lived, for he had 2 pissed-off men in his office for various reasons, and another crisis besides the missing Naruto, that now had Kumogakure involved as well. Even though you couldn't see behind the dog Anbu's mask, Kakashi Hatake, in typical Anbu gear, and a black tanto on his back, he could tell how pissed he was. The killing intent was obvious, with slumped shoulders the only sign of the depression within. Then bring into the picture the usual stoic Hiashi Hyuga in near-blind panic rage that only got worse when he found out that Naruto still wasn't found. The third never saw this much emotion from Hiashi, well ever. Hiashi was wearing his clan's typical wear of a white kimono, and with his long brown hair tied at the end. Rubbing his temples while smoking his pipe, the Hokage kept repeating like a mantra, "I'm too old for this shit, why me, I'm too old for this shit, why me?" Blowing out some smoke from his mouth, Sarutobi in his Hokage outfit and Hokage hat on his head, just sighed before straightening himself up, and looking at the duo. "Dog, any news on Naruto's or Hinata's whereabouts? It's Naruto's birthday today and I have a gift to give him," asked and stated the Hokage with some prodding authority. The Hokage, already knowing that he lost a lot of respect from the head Anbu captain and third behind the leader of all of Konoha's Anbu. The dog-masked Anbu straightened himself up a little bit and lessened the killing intent, sighing, but the Hokage only heard that because of his sensitive ninja ears. The Anbu captain dog looked at Sarutobi and shook his head. "Sorry Hokage-sama, his scent is all over Konoha, he seems to travel a lot, and it's interfering with the search, but some Anbu lead by Cat have informed me before your summons that they have freshly tracked him to Konoha Central Park, and that we may get him yet. Also reporting to her is a second team about the young Hyuga heiress and has informed me 2 similar ults." Sarutobi let out a breath that he didn't know he was holding, and out of the corner of his eye he saw Hiashi momentarily show relief as well before turning back to extremely concerned and angry. "Hokage-sama," Hiashi started, "this is why you should have let one of the more informative and understanding clans adopt him. Shikaku, I, and Murakumo have all tried too, and you stop us, this wouldn't have happened if you let us. For Kami's sake, Murakumo and I are not only Minato's Genin team members, we, along with Shikaku were clan allies, so why can't we adopt him? Even Dog here has tried, as well Mitarashi-san, Maruboshi-san, and that civilian council member Ichiraku-san. Why can't any one of us adopt young Uzumaki-san?" Hiashi rambled out very fast. Once again the Hokage felt his age, never liking that he had to take up the hat again or let it concede to possibly Danzo. "Hiashi, I've already explained this," started the Hokage in a professional tone. "You, Shikaku, and Murakumo are all clan heads, and that particular adoption could start clan feuds and many questions. Like you said, you and Murakumo were Minato's teammates." The third Hokage took a breath and thanked Kami once again for privacy seals that he had activated once the 2 had arrived. He continued, "Our main goal is to not draw attention to Naruto in any way. That includes Dog as Minato's student known to be with me while we rushed to the Fox ceiling area that night." Dog's shoulders slumped even lower, though only the Hokage noticed and winced inside from guilt of not doing the ceiling himself or getting there in time. Shikaku is also the Junin commander, which doesn't help his case, plus everyone knows Naruto have some universal reason for doing almost anything outside of watching clouds and breathing, and Anko-chan's ex-sensei's reputation already puts problems on her. We don't need to add Naruto to that mix. My old friend Kosuke would be a good choice, but his reputation and abilities are highly respected and I don't want him to lose that because of ignorance, as well as the fact he's the only other person who came with me to the scene that night, besides Yoni. And Hamaki Mimura, dog here, and Anbu Tuna doesn't help, it will make people question him and why as well. I also don't want to dump problems on his daughter-in-law, granddaughter, and Manabu, or I might just have allowed him to. That's too much for them to handle right now, especially since his son and Manabu's wife died in the fox's attack. Though I know they won't feel hatred toward him, it still might cause them problems in the future, the old Hokage sighed. Tuna and Hamaki have both asked me as well, but before they submitted the official paperwork, but I said no. I myself would have liked to. My family can tell the difference between a kunai and a scroll, but that would defeat the purpose and only make questions and make him a possible target. All of this is to make him as small a target as possible as well as to keep him away from any sort of Danzo's influence in chess. Giving to a non-ninja family like the Ichirakus, who I know were close to the family, and mean well, will make Naruto and them vulnerable. However, I will be the first to admit I have failed Naruto, and when we find him I will make it up to him. I won't be getting him his house yet because certain legal issues, but I will make it up to him and at least tell him who his parents are, he deserves to know. And Kakashi, the third Hokage, getting the angry and depressed dog masked Anbu's attention in shock by calling him his name while still wearing his mask, something completely against protocol and ethics, even for a cage. The third continued, if he decides to become a ninja, he will be on your team no matter what the council says, and who's against, the council can be damned. I'm the blasted Hokage and I need to show it. I've been too lax for too long. The Hokage's new fire and speech, somewhat unknown to him, got him some valuable and much needed points from Kakashi and Hiashi. The next thing is that Jiraiya is going to come and do some of his godfatherly duties finally, and so he will be looked well after. Kakashi and Hiashi were surprised, but before they could comment, the third then turned to Hiashi, who looked somewhat taken aback by what was just said, but with a still schooled worried face. Now Hiashi, the Kumo nin that the panicked Ko saw entering the Hyuga compound via the wall, spill everything. Apparently he was tasked by some of the Kumo elders to kidnap your daughter, but he doesn't have her, addressed the Hokage. The Hokage saw some relief, but a still panicked Hyuga. It's a good thing your brother saw Ko jump over the wall after him and help subdue the Kumo nin. It was extraordinary luck that we have this opportunity and people witnessed this. Now we have a live nin and valuable intel. It seems Kumo thinks they are going to win, but we have a good political bargaining chip. Now I know it's not my business, since it's your clan, but can I inquire what is going to happen to young Ko for misplacing your daughter and heiress? The room was quiet for a moment before the Hyuga patriarch spoke. You don't have to worry, Hokage-sama, I have no ill intentions for Ko. This is not the first time this has happened. Ko has informed me that she runs off all the time due to her curiosity of the life outside of the compound, but he normally finds her within 3 minutes or less. He has asked me what he should do, if it takes longer, and I gave him instructions that he followed, which if he looks upon the general area to inform me if he can't find her in 15 minutes to start a search and inform the clan. Hiashi finished with a look to the ground. After a moment he looked back up and continued. She is so much like her mother Tomoyo, who herself laughs at the similarities. This time Hiashi, although with a little smile on his face, sighs deeply. Then turning serious again he addressed the Hokage, however, you need not to worry, Hokage-sama, Ko was just following my orders and in doing so caught an enemy ninja entering our compound uninvited. I will personally see to it that nothing happens to him, and the Hyuga elders are kept in line. Sarutobi let out a curt and approving nod toward Hiashi, when a swirl of smoke appeared between Hiashi and Dog. In the swirl was a purple-haired kneeling female cat-masked Anbu. The other occupants in the room were all looking at the kneeling female Anbu with critical eyes, for they all wanted good news. You may stand cat, and tell us your update, said the third Hokage kindly. Getting up, with a, thank you Hokage-sama, she began to give her report with the semi-bad news that they were close but lost the trail, but they all perked up when she said that the Hyuga heiress, Naruto, and an other unknown child were obviously traveling together. Something that Hiashi was shocked to discover. I wonder if this was fate, he thought to himself. She decided to make a request to find her kid brother. Hokage-sama, permission to speak freely, she asked. The Hokage nodded. Sir, we're real close to his trail. To help pinpoint his location, can we try your crystal ball? She asked with a hoping voice. Sarutobi sighed, but nodded and opened a drawer and set up his crystal ball. Due to Konoha looking similar in many places, it is hard to track the specific location from this, but I do try it at least 3 times a day and hope to find him. Maybe one of you 3 would recognize where he is. So please watch as well, the Hokage inclined. The other 3 nodded, especially Hiashi, who was wondering what Naruto and his daughter were doing, and who the third person they were with is. What the crystal ball showed garnered a lot of killing intent from the occupants. Naruto was holding back a mob that was attacking him, while also protecting 2 girls, one of which was Hinata Hyuga. The other girl was quickly identified by the Hokage. That's Kosuke Maruboshi's granddaughter, Junko. I wonder how they all met, the aged Hokage thought. If anyone saw all 4 occupants of the Hokage office, it would be hard to say who was the most pissed. With venom in his voice that promised punishment, the Hokage had to ask, does anyone know where they are? Quote, it took a 2 agonizing seconds before he got an answer. Look, said Hiashi, pointing to a logo on 1-2 boxes next to the 2 girls. That's the alley behind the jewelry store a lot of the Hyugas use, he finished. Wasting no time, the Hokage asked, can you show us the way, Hiashi? The Hyuga head nodded. Sarutobi opened 2 of his office windows. No time for the door, Hiashi, you lead the way. Once again the Hyuga head nodded with pure hatred and determination in his eyes. The third Hokage pointed to the 2 Anbu and said, you're coming too. They nodded, and a second later the office was empty and quiet, but the traces of the potent killing intent remained. Hell was about to be raised. 31 minutes and 6 seconds before. Hinata felt warm, the warmest she could ever recall ever being. She continued to snuggle up to the warmth. That is until she started recalling what her last memories were, and she woke up with a start. Looking ahead of her, all she could see was a sea of shining blonde spiky hair. She was memorized before realization hit her. She turned 8 shades of red, and then, eeped. Naruto for his part made it 3 steps out of the park when he heard it, and felt Hinata wake up. Stopping, Naruto asked, Hinata-chan, are you okay? You pet out. Hang on, I'm going to go find a doctor, okay. Hinata for her part looked bashful and turned an extra 4 shades of red. That smoke started pouring from her head. Naruto made it to the end of the block when Hinata found her voice again. Naruto-san, please put me down, I'm okay, honest. Naruto obliged but still looked worried, while Hinata was still beet red, but had calmed down some. An awkward silence prevailed for a couple of seconds before Naruto shook his head, getting the attention of Hinata. What is it, Naruto-san? She asked. Naruto just shook his head again, but this time with a smile. Just call me Naruto. We're friends, and plus I don't really care for honorifics. Hinata could only shake her head. Friends we are, but I will just call you Naruto-kun and you can keep calling me Hinata-chan, she answered shyly, while simultaneously shuffling her feet and peeking at Naruto out of the corner of her eyes rather cutely. Naruto brought his hand to his chin as he was in deep thought, something that made Hinata giggle, but Naruto didn't notice. Fine, he conceded, you are my first friend, so I suppose, he relented with another foxy grin, while rubbing the back of his head. Something Hinata thought was cute, and made her cheeks flush. Something she realized she had been doing a lot since she met Naruto not that long ago. She slowly started to question those thoughts and what they could mean, and if since he touched her chest means they're husband and wife, which in turn made her cheeks blush heavily. She put her two hands on her cheeks and was still in thought and never noticed Naruto was walking a short distance away. For at that moment Naruto was distracted by muffled sound of someone crying. Ignoring the dirty looks and glares he was getting by Perbees, Naruto went over to a girl around his and Hinata's age sitting and crying by a crate on the side of a gray stone wall. The girl was short, but not as short as Hinata and almost as tall as Naruto. She had medium dark blue hair with one bang on her right side going to her shoulder tip but tied in a braid, and had the eye color of a majestic green. She was wearing light blue pants and ninja shoes, with a similar short-sleeved shirt that was black and V-necked, and a brown vest over her shirt. That looked like it was made of wool that almost made her look like a small boy instead of a small girl. She was sobbing and rubbing her eyes. The light was soon blocked by something and she opened her eyes to see a boy around her age looking at her, and holding out his hand. "Are you okay? There's no reason to cry. I'm Naruto Uzumaki, what's the matter?" The girl for some reason felt she could trust him and simply nodded before taking the boy's hand. Hinata, snapping out of her love-struck thoughts, turned to see her new friend help some girl she didn't know up before going over herself to see what was going on. "I'm Junko Maruboshi and my grandfathers were taking me through the festival, when we got separated. Now I'm lost," explained the girl looking like she was going to start crying again. Naruto, being Naruto, put the thumbs up sign and said, "Don't worry Junko-chan, I'll help you find your grandfathers, it's a promise, and I won't go back on it," declared Naruto. Just after Naruto finished, Hinata made it over. Feeling a little shy, despite her confused feelings, her kindness won out though, and she felt for the girl for her plight. This in turn made her realize that she was separated from her guardians and missing from her family. She went over and yanked a little on Naruto's shirt sleeve, getting his attention. A little shyly she said, "Naruto-kun, I'm in the same boat, I need to get back to my house, my family is probably worried." Naruto didn't even hesitate, "Then I promise to help you get home too Hinata-chan." Then turning to look from one girl to the other twice, he suddenly and dramatically pointed from to the other girl. "Hinata-chan, this Junko-chan." Then pointing to Hinata he finished with, "Junko-chan, this is Hinata Han, my friend." This made both Junko and Hinata giggle at his antics. "I know, why don't you become our friend too Junko-chan," explained Naruto in kind way. Junko for her part just smiled and nodded. Hinata smiled happily if not a bit shyly as well. Then Naruto's face became serious and thinking like something that took both girls aback a little bit. "Do any of you know where you live?" he asked anticlimactically. Both girls just shook their head after sweat dropping. Silence prevailed for a couple of seconds before Naruto declared dramatically, "Then we'll walk around until one of you sees something familiar or someone you know and can help." Both girls just face-palmed at his way over dramaticness. "Let's go, Datbeo," he declared, as he started walking down the street. Hinata and Junko both giggled again. The two girls followed suit and they began their search. No one seemed to want to help them though, and almost everyone was glaring at them. Plus it was now really dark outside and the lights were all on all over the festival. The girls were getting uncomfortable though with all bad looks they were getting, until finally Junko asked the obvious, "Why are they glaring at us?" "Huh," said Naruto, so busy looking around at the festival and the going-ons that he didn't hear the question. "I asked Naruto-kun why are people are glaring at us." Naruto just bopped himself in the head, something that brought small smiles to both the girls' faces before his revelation. "Oh, they're glaring at me, for reasons I don't know. I even got kicked out of the orphanage by people with similar glares," he said casually, too casually. Never noticing the girls' faces completely darken. A thick silence prevailed as the two girls glared back at the glarers, something that threw some of the glarers for a loop. They're glaring at the kind boy trying to help them, and didn't seem to deserve this treatment, which he also didn't notice. Junko then thought of another question. Naruto, if you got kicked out of the orphanage, where do you live? Hinata thought it was a good question and also wanted to know the answer, but for a different reason. Naruto stopped walking and thought for a moment, before surprising them both by waving his hands in the air and declaring rather loudly, "Fort Naruto." Something that made both girls giggle at his antics temporarily, before they heard the next part. Resuming walking, he then said, "Some people found it, so I have to build it in some other alley later tonight, and I had the good boxes too." Both girls were shocked that this nice boy who desperately trying to help them, was living on the streets. They both saw that he looked dirty, but to be homeless at this age, it broke their hearts. Hinata was especially sad, for she didn't think her clan would help him, since he wasn't part of a clan and he had no fame or money. Despite her age, her political skills were top-notch, something that was taught beginning at a very young age to the Hyuga children, especially the heiress. Her Ka-chan would surely help Naruto in some way, especially since he was helping her and saved her, but her 2-san might be harder to convince. If only she knew the basics of the going-ons. Junko was thinking that if anyone could help him, it was her grandfathers, people she always admired and always seemed to know what to do. Surely they could help, but now they still had to find them or someone helpful. Their musings were brought to an end by Naruto. "Hey, look, there is a ninja. Maybe he could help. Hinata-chan is from a ninja clan, right? He should know where they're at," he explained excitedly, while thinking back to that clan revelation when their child minds realized that finding a specific son failed, and Hinata told Naruto and Junko that the Hyuga were a ninja clan and lived in a clan compound. Both girls weren't far behind as Naruto politely tapped the Chunin on the arm. The ninja with a Chunin flak jacket was talking to another Chunin. Two things went through the minds of the two girls while looking uneasily at each other. One, that his breath smelled weird. Two, they were glaring at Naruto like the other people. Naruto himself smelt the two ninja but didn't seem to notice the glares, since he was so absorbed in wanting to help Hi's new friends. The two girls had a bad feeling and looked uncertainly at each other again. It was quickly proven right. Naruto didn't even get to ask his question for help for his friends, before a hand shot out and lifted Naruto up by his throat, choking him as well. Well, look here, Taiji, the fox has come to play," said the ninja in a drunken sort of voice. Taiji, the other ninja, also obviously drunk, laughed. "You're right, Bacon, what should we play, Operation?" he asked. Hinata doing something very not Hinata-like and kicked the Chunin Bacon in the leg hard. Junko didn't bother with the legs, she kicked Chunin Taiji in every guy's weak spot, and forced him on his knees. Bacon, due to pain, had dropped Naruto, who was gasping of air. "Damn," said Bacon, "the demon has bitches, he probably brainwashed them." Taiji was seething. "Brainwashed or not, that ing hurt, the bitches need to be taught a lesson." Quote. Both got up slowly, and Taiji took out two kunai and threw one at Junko, who was now too scared to move. She closed her eyes and waited for it to hit, while tears fell from her face, but it never came. When she heard a grunt, she opened her eyes and there was Naruto with a kunai in his upper right arm. "Don't hurt my friends, you're jerks," shouted Naruto. Hinata, for her part, had only just started learning her family's fight style, the gentle fist, but she was going to do her part and got in her stan. Junko was still silently crying and could only say, "Naruto." Bacon spat on the ground while Taiji in his drunken stupor yelled to the nearby villagers, getting their attention, some of which were as drunk as Taiji and Bacon. "Hey everybody, here's the demon child, and he wants to play tag, we're all it, so let's get him." There were several shouts of agreement, mostly from the drunker ones, while Naruto was shocked still. He wasn't for long as a sake bottle flew by and barely missed him. Grabbing Junko by her left hand and Hinata by her right arm as she was going into a Jiyuken stance, they ran. They ran and they kept running for 3 blocks while being chased by a mob of mostly drunk villagers and 2 drunk shunin, who were shouting war cries and insults at Naruto and few to the 2 girls as well. Using his and his friend's small statures, he expertly negotiated through the crowd that was started to part for the mob, but Naruto was a step ahead. He managed to duck them into a small dead-end alley that seemed like only 2 people side by side could walk through, and they hugged the wall as the mob drunkenly ran past wielding various sharp and pointy objects. Naruto himself sighed in relief, with a kunai in his arm still. Both Hinata and Junko were crying. We lost them, now. He never got to finish as a ninja star embedded itself on back of his right hand. There, near their only way out stood Taiji spinning a kunai in his left hand. The 3 got off the wall and slowly started backing up toward the dead-end wall, while Naruto also pulled out the 2 ninja weapons from his body, and dropped them on the ground. They were only a few inches away when Bacon jumped down from the roof and kicked Naruto square in the chest against the wall. Naruto-kun, shouted the girls almost perfectly together. Before their world went black as Bacon chopped them in the back of their necks. Taiji was meanwhile calling back some elements of the mob to their location. Naruto rushed forward and despite his injuries head-butted the chunin in his stomach and caught the girls. He put them down together in left corner next to the 2 big boxes, before turning around and stepping toward the now half-reassembled mob. You're gonna pay for that one demon, and your bitches too, spat Bacon. Naruto knew he was surely going to die, but he would do everything in his power to protect his friends, at all costs. He just got into a defensive position 3 feet from his new friends when the 2 drunk shunin and 9 villagers charged. Standing his ground he tried to push them back but was met with 2 kunai in the gut and few punches from a few of the villagers. That's for my father demon, yelled one of the drunken villagers. Another splashed sake on him, mostly going to his chest area. One of the villagers, seeing Naruto coved in sake, threw a match on him. This is to finish what the Yondaime started 6 years ago. You being the demon should have died that night, yelled the villager after he threw the match. Screams pierced the air as Naruto fell down in a desperate attempt to put out the flames. As Naruto was doing so, the villagers and the chunin were continuously kicking him, which caused the 2 kunai to go deeper into his body. More kicks mostly to his back, head, left arm, and stomach constantly hit him, until another villager dumped more sake on him, which made the screams intensify, and flames resume. After few minutes it was temporarily calm. Naruto put the fire out from rolling around, but was bleeding from a huge gash on his face and 2 gaping holes in his stomach, several broken bones, minor gashes, and burns over 60% of his body and many other injuries. Naruto was barely conscious to say the least. The mob was cheering that they killed the demon, and dancing around a little bit. But Naruto was not dead and was determined to protect his friends, and trying to get up, but couldn't move. When he saw Taiji and a civilian head toward his friends, he mustered up all his strength and with determination rushed them, surprising everyone. He pushed them into a wall before another villager punched Naruto into the still unconscious girls, while a ninja star embedded itself into his right shoulder. Naruto was leaning against the wall, his feet touching both girls. He couldn't move, and couldn't talk, and was using the wall for absolute support, but was giving the crowd a determined look. Bacon was slowly walking over and pulled out another kunai. Well, I'll finish him off for sure with this, he declared, raising the kunai amongst the cheering mob. Naruto didn't have the strength to go on, and had tears leaking out his face as he solemnly thought, I failed my friends. Quote, before slipping into unconsciousness, Naruto never noticed the red chakra that was slowly developing around him heavily and in plain sight of everyone there, or the 4 angry and horrified onlookers that appeared on the roof of the jewelry store above, and jumped down to protect him. However, no one there, not even the fox, knew what happened in heaven above 4 minutes ago. 4 good friends and deities were having their annual get-together, away from their rather busy lives. Really, it was just an excuse to take a break. So sitting around a pure silver table viewing the world from a water basin filled with water positioned in the center of said table, sitting in matching pure silver chairs were the four deities. Benzaiden, Kichihoten, Inari, and Kami herself. All sipping green tea and having a breather. Or they were but were currently astonished at what they were seeing. All the girls had Hourgal figures in D cup S, and were the uptime of beauty, none so much more than Kami. Kami was wearing a pure gold princess Yakuta, with long flowing black hair, and tan skin. She had beautiful eyes that changed to every color of the rainbow every couple of minutes, and had the most beautiful face that could make any mortal man melt. Standing along the table beside her was a red-wooded naginata with a pure silver and steel blade. Benzaiden had short blonde hair and blue eyes that glittered in the light. She was wearing an all-purple yakuta with 2 music notes on the bottom, and a pearl necklace. As well as a golden mini harp at her feet. Kichihoten had a smiling face that didn't seem to go away and was radiating warmth. She was wearing a simple all-yellow yakuta but was also barefoot. While all the other goddesses at the table were roughly medium height, Inari was a foot shorter and had an all-white yakuta on with simple fox paw prints on it, and an elegant sword called Kajutsu Maru strapped to her side. Deities need entertainment, just like mortals, so doing these breaks, Kami would command the water to show her by her instructions, rare sights in the mortal realm. Normally this brought images of funny or interesting sights that even the mortals don't see every day, some were small acts of chivalry or romantic scenarios. Others were just plain odd or overly dramatic. However, right now the four deities were stock still and surprised, as well as angry and impressed. Some things that was hard to do to 4 of the most powerful deities in the realm. I was always sad to see the Uzumaki clan go. I gave them my blessing for warrior protection to the entire clan, something I normally do to one person, not an entire clan. However, even I couldn't interfere when Kumo, Iwa, and Aim makered them due to our ancient and binding laws, but they sure took a lot of them with them. That damn ungrateful and pathetic Madara had to play deity and harm my creation Kurama. Then his minion had to unleash him a second time. Now both my creation and the one of the only 4 Uzumaki left in the world is about to die due to drunken fools who can't understand the basic definition for the word sealed. At least he's going down like his ancestors, explained Inari in sad voice that was only half true. Benzaiden patted Inari on the back to comfort her, although her words didn't help, but that's not what was going on. Too bad, he was such a charmer. Knowing some mortal laws I could have had fun with my blessing. There was silence for a second before Kichihoten spoke in mock sadness. I second you on that one, Benton-chan. That young Uzumaki really does deserve happiness. I mean, he's trying to save his 2 new friends while practically mortally wounded that was caused by misguided hatred toward him and alcohol. Fujin's blessed clan is the Namikaze and Sujin's blessed clan is the Jakado, and they would be sad to see him go. He's the last of these blessed clans, and they might owe favors to whoever helps him. Last of 3.5 bloodlines, but has 4. The mock sad looks continued as Benzaiden took the floor again. I know, right, Kichi-chan, what were those bloodlines again? Oh, yeah, chakra chains, the rest of the Uzumaki bloodline, Mokuden, fast travel, and water shaper. Meaning he is last of 2 of those clans, and between the other 2 he only has 1 relative and the other he has 2. Not to mention he was the child of prophecy. We the deities as a whole made him such to bring an era of peace, for it needs to happen, and more importantly because we all want an ended break up here in heaven to have a simple extended vacation with little interruption and less paperwork. At least he will get to meet his dad and mom. For all the mortals think that that seal he used to seal the fox will forces him to stay in the stomach of the Shinigami for all eternity. Too bad that mortals can't completely play deity, and only Kami-chan here gets to decide who belongs in heaven or hell. Plus it doesn't hurt that the Shinigami can only stomach evil or bad souls. The other 2 just nodded, besides Kami, in mock depression. All of which were looking at Kami out of the corner of their eyes, and smirking on the inside. Kami is the only one who can authorize the breaching of the ancient pact. Or more precisely, she wrote it, and can tweak it a bit for the other deities. To get her to move and do so is hard and only happens rarely. Despite her being the deity of creation and ruler of the deities for this realm, her outgoing and hard-working personality, she is also very shy. Her only friends are these three, which more than not are her very best friends, but she will talk to old Fujin for advice, Omoikane, who isn't that social unless you ask his opinion on anything, which she does here and there, mostly when there is a major dispute in heaven, and her aide in the one who brings all the paperwork to her office, Amaterasu. Uzume, Aim no Uzume, talks to her like a big sister, and she doesn't mind it, but she also forces Kami heavily out of her comfort zone with her wildness, but Kami does consider her a friend. She just has too much fun and forgets to visit until she drops in unexpectedly. Kami herself had a weird look on her face and she knew what her friends were trying to get her to do. She couldn't help but agree with them, but the paperwork and Amaterasu's scolding that was sure to come from this was not something she looked forward to. I don't think we should do this. You all make valid points, but letting nature take its course and free will are the mortal's domain and we shouldn't interfere, Kami explained quotingly. Her friends looked crestfallen but still determined, something Kami knew meant trouble for her. Before she could contemplate anything else, a pair of hands started grouping her s. Fighting in her seat and trying to get the strong hands off of her, she also almost immediately smelled alcohol. Uzume-chan, stop, begged Kami to the tall deity in a red yakuta with sakura blossoms all over it covering J-sized S, but a rip on her left sleeve and a giant open sake bottle tied to her obi. Come on Kami-chan, Aim no Uzume-kud. I have the biggest party planned and I can't do it until that young mortal brings peace. Me and Fujin have been making sake up the wazoo, so let's do something to help them out. Kami was hit dumb for a second as Uzume stopped fondling her. Kami screamed, before Uzume fondled her harder, causing her to moan. The others were all embered but listened closely. Yes, continued Uzume, still seemingly absent-mindedly fondling Kami's s while her face showed she was thinking. A fact not known to mortals is that Uzume was infamously spot on with odds and predictions, and is well informed. Which made her a horrible person to bet against during the monthly deity poker night. That one Anbu Kakashi has lost his whole team, his father, his sensei, his secret love, and adopted family, and the way things are going it's going to get worse, and if we help him, he'll help that young Uzuma. He better, which will bring our much-needed vacation faster. His clan will also go back up into full clan status, if I think what might happen. Then there's the current Hokage. He will die by his predecessor's seal, the only thing you almost sent the Yondaime to hell for all the paperwork it caused. The third Hokage will probably die trying to kill that pain in the Orochimaru, that has been a pain in the forever and has even caused me undity amounts of paperwork in my department of revelry. If we help him the job will get done properly and the paperwork will lessen, and his son Wo old also live and we can stop Kazuma sooner, which would cause less paperwork, and many lives will be saved. If Hiyashi is helped then so will Hinata and his wife wouldn't be secretly inundated by some of those blasted Hyuga elders, and the curse seal will be gone by that prevention. That would lessen the paperwork for you for all the centuries to come, and I can finally throw a party at the Hyuga compound. Now if that last Anbu is helped, her boyfriend will be saved and cured, that's also if we help Naruto out as well, but if we do help her she will marry her boyfriend and bring happiness to Konoha through many people. This will also help Naruto as well. Plus they and their kids will develop a new form of kenjutsu and start a dojo and a clan, and one of their kids will also become a medic nin of great standing and help the world and save lives. This in turn means less paperwork for you. Now if we help Naruto then things will happen in this world, all good things, with mostly world peace, untold number of lives saved, goodness and peace spreading, and tons upon tons of future paperwork for you destroyed, and I'll also talk to Amaterasu and she won't be a problem. After that Uzume stopped fondling Kami, and all she could do was think, hook, line, and sinker. Good thing I kept the blackmail material of how I really got Amaterasu out of that cave. Everyone else was too drunk to notice. Hee hee hee. The others were softly giggling to themselves and knew what was coming next. For Kami, she didn't even realize that Uzume stopped fondling her. She had stars in her eyes, and like song and mantra she kept repeating over and over again, less paperwo. RK. As if her life, she's immortal, depended on it, she quickly agreed, but only a blessing to Naruto on the condition that she would honor Uzume's words about what was going to happen to the others she mentioned, and that Naruto's life road doesn't deviate too far, and that most importantly that it will decrease her paperwork like they all claimed. Squealing like schoolgirls, like fangirls, at this rare occasion, the women quickly thought of what they were going to bless Naruto with. Benzaiden went first, and headed to the water basin on the table. I know all about the CRA, so this should be fun considering you're part of 4 clans. I bless that Naruto Uzumaki, although he has it in him already, I bless that his words have more of an impact on the opposite without lovers and or with people that are in or have been in really depressing or bad situations like Naruto in some way, shape or form, and that when Naruto helps them in their prospects, and in return they develop feeling for him, that they will get a fair chance with him, and that whoever truly and not crush like, but truly loves him for him can smoothly get together with him. T. Had aren't too old, she finished with a smile. Good luck, kid. If anyone can handle what I just did to you, you can, thought Benzaiden as she left and Kichihoden went over to the basin. Kichihoden went in a thinking pose before looking down at the water basin. Your life is destined to be hard and luck shows itself here and there to every mortal. Naruto Uzumaki, I bless you with incredibly good luck when it comes to survival, and general things that are outside of your destined road. You'll find luck more than any other mortal, or when you least expect it, so your general luck as a mortal increases as well as your survival rate. Kichihoden finished and walked away. As she was pinging Inari going to the water basin, she had the amusing thought of, I wonder how many bets he can win in a lifetime. Inari for her part looked pleased and serious at the same time, and started her blessing. Your ancestors were one of my favored people and were very good warriors in their own way, for every warrior has a style. Naruto Uzumaki, I renew the blessing I gave your ancestors of the Uzumaki clan, and that it will also be on to your descendants, as well as their skills in Fuinjutsu that was also subtly part of that pact. I bless you newly that whatever style you fight with in the future, that you will become a master of that style, and that you will be proficient in it, especially when fighting for the right reasons. Leaving the altar, Inari was surprised to see Kami step forward. Like noted before, Kami rarely lets people mess with the destinies of people. Deities are allowed to answer prayers and bless people, and or when they along and or their ancestors have been moral or righteous, have a God's undivided Adon, Tion and ultimate blessing. Besides answering some prayers, Kami herself has never blessed a specific person, and then doing so when she is bending the rules was surprising to them all. Although they all sweat dropped, Kami included, when Uzume started cheering her to the water basin. Taking a deep breath, Kami started, you are the first one that I'm giving a blessing to, so please feel honored, and I'm also hoping it lessens the paperwork, but like the others here I would also feel bad if you died the noble death that currently awaits you, even though it's a 50-50 chance right n. Ow. For that and not giving into hatred for how people treat you and your kind soul into simply wanting to change people's views of you, as well as protecting two innocents from harm in the most painful and determined way, I shall grant 2 of your prayers and give you a blessing. Both of these may take some time, but I grant your wish that you should have a family. You yourself probably won't see it at first, but it will be there amongst your friends and neighbors and will gradually grow. Second, and this one will take the longest, but it does coincide with your destiny. Destiny is never written in stone, but generally things are meant to happen by your choices, so I will give you the power to change people's minds when done in the right way about things, and in a sense you will become an enigma in and on the mortal and ninja realm more so than you are now, despite you already being one. And now for my first blessing. I bless you Naruto Uzumaki into simply following your dreams. It will be your choice, but if you work hard enough, all your dreams will come true, as long as it has either or both morals or love and or is done for the right reasons. I also offer you two gifts as well, and that is I will remove the very well hidden placement and filter seal that headache D. Anzo placed on you as a ruse to get you under his misguided control. I hope this helps you and that it ticks Danzo off, and more than anything, lessens the paperwork. I also will give you Kyuubi's other chakra back in hopes that it helps you. The seal would have given it back eventually, but I'll let it happen sooner. Kami smiled, bowed to Naruto in the hope lessening the paperwork, and strode next to the others who have blessed him. All eyes turned to the still partially drunk Uzume, who had the most mischievous smile on her face that worried Kami to no end. Uzume, being the ornery and fun-loving person she was, hobbled over to the water basin with an evil grin. She had always wanted to do this to someone simply out of curiosity and entertainment purposes. Well, the first part anyway, she wanted to make him drunk-proof, but the Kyuubi would just get rid of the alcohol in his system anyway. Naruto Uzumaki, I bless you with the power. The others leaned in and Kami was starting to sweat at the possible problems this could cause. Uzume was looking like she was thinking long and hard, but inside she was laughing and thinking how much fun this was going to be. Like your mother before you, you will be a prank master, and that your whisker marks and when you rub them and start purring will be passed down to your kids, despite the fact you yourself don't know this can happen to you yet, and she finished with a laugh. The other four face-palmed, all the while Kami was sighing inside. Knowing her, that could have been worse, and the problems it could have caused, oh, the horror, but at least she didn't do something too bad. I think, Kami thought long and hard, just hoping that blessing alone wouldn't cause her major problems. After the blessing, Uzume steered the conversation to what kind of favors the five could ask from Fujin and Sujin for saving the last descendant of their two family clans and possibly expanding it in the future with their blessings. During that rather entertaining hypothetical conversation, Amaterasu found them and she started berating Kami for irresponsible behavior. She was quickly silenced and red-faced by Uzume when she whispered something in her ear and left rather quickly, making the other women both curious at what Uzume refused to tell them what she said, and a good round of laughter at the poor deity's plight. All the while young Naruto Uzumaki was having an increase in red chakra surrounding him. A minute before Kami finished her blessing, the Kyuubi no Yuko, the great nine-tailed demon fox, the lord of all demons of the realm, was having a bad day. No, let's rephrase that. The great demon fox was having a shittiest, worst day that he can plainly recall since being sealed into a human Aki by the Yondaime Hokage 6 decrepit years ago, and that's saying something since it's forced to live in a sewer. Now the fox had no love for its container, but sympathy, yes, and plenty of it. If the fox wasn't sleeping in the dreary sewer, it was looking at the boy's memories. It started out as something to do to pee the endless stream of boredom the fox felt. However, it soon turned to curiosity and sometimes rage. Rage for the fact that people were calling its container, warden, and ultimate jailer as the demon, or Kyuubi, and confusing him with the Gaki, and Simpat. Headache rage for how people treated its container. For even a demon wouldn't treat a kid like that, but also curiosity. Its container didn't hold an ounce of animosity towards any of the village for it. Instead, its container seemed to want prove all of them wrong and do the best that he can to placate the wrong that they felt he did, and the fox had to admit with grudging respect that the boy was good at hiding. This drove the fox to study its container and keep an eye on him. Although there was a second reason as well. The fox loathed admitting it, but its survival rested on the tiny shoulders of the blonde-haired child. Every once in a while, some villagers, and occasionally some ninja would hurt the boy in some way, shape, or form. Some really bad but normally nothing terrible despite the occasional broken bone, or a short beating, and that was nothing the fox couldn't help with. Even with the boy's Kami forsaken seal keeping him in, he found he was at least allowed to indirectly protect himself from harm. However, now the great demon fox was pumping chakra into the boy for dear life, wondering if the kid could hold long enough for his grandfather figure or someone else. Ida, come save them both or they would surely die this night. Come on Gaki. I don't think you can hear me, but for the love Kami, hold on. You don't want to die in front of your potential mates, do you? The fox tried to encourage. Shit. What a way for us to go. It's not even his fall. The fox's attention went to the two seals as it was starting to glow, and it felt it old chakra that he would never feel again return. The fox had practically memorized both seals of his cage, from being in here so long, but even he never saw them glow. The second seal completely disappeared in tatters, to the surprise and slight curious glee of the fox. Then he noticed that the four small circles near the right upper corner of the original seal start to turn and felt his chakra spike. Plus his chakra started to flow more evenly and better through the seal, and with more chakra now to his still curious glee, he started pumping it like crazy. Then he felt his old chakra return, much to the fox's joy and curiosity, but he decided to dwell on that later. Mused the fox in slight admiration. I don't know how, but the human's annoying first seal is destroyed. Now I can pump him with more chakra, and if that one spinning circle is what I think it is, we may make it yet. Yelled the fox in glee in his head, as he started repairing his container. Naruto Uzumaki. I feel that human's grandfather figure and several other familiar signatures approaching. Should I interfere with what I believe is about to happen, or do I wait and see where this goes? Thought the fox. Honest curiosity as well as years of imprisonment of boredom in a sewer finally overrode the fox's survival instinct. I can now always pump enough chakra to stabilize him, so it to hell and let's see where this goes, laughed the fox in his head. If only he knew how destiny changed drastically by this simple decision the fox made, and by the 5 deities above. I wish I could see their faces, but it looks like we're heading for the unknown, thought the fox with a mischievous gleam in his eyes, before it started laughing loudly. When the Hokage and his group came to the rooftop overlooking the scene, Sarutobi wasted no time. Cat, dog, head to the entrance of the alley, don't let anyone in or out, Hiyashi, you're with me. They all nodded and were all leaking MIV amounts of killing intent. Everyone jumped to their stations while the Hokage and Hiyashi jumped down in front of the group, who had started to back away some when Naruto had started heavily leaking out the fox's orangish-red chakra. The mob started getting more frightened when they saw the Hokage, but before they could say anything the Hokage addressed them. You all should be ashamed of yourselves, hurting innocent children who did absolutely nothing to you, he berated angrily and fiercely. This seemed to get the mob going again. Why Hokage-sama, do you protect the fox that murdered so many? Yelled a very large man with thick sideburns. There were a lot of calls for agreement on that. The fox killed my brother, yelled one of the civilians in the back. The fox killed my niece and uncle, yelled the only women in the group. More and more cries of agreement. He killed 2 of my friends, my mother, and the Yondaime, yelled Taiji, which only spurred the calls on. The Hokage had had enough and pointed to the 2 Chunin. You 2 are stripped of your ninja rank for attacking innocent kids. You 2 and the rest of you should have more faith in the Yondaime's seal. If Naruto was the fox he would have killed us all 6 years ago, he explained. The 2 ninjas and the civilians were shocked. For attacking an innocent girl you all are under arrest. For attacking the Hyuga heiress you all will pay retributions to the Hyuga family, and do hard labor. He then took a deep breath. The mob started to feel uneasy. The Hokage had a dark look on his face, but continued, for harming our village's hero, who is keeping the fox at bay. As well the crimes of attempted murder of a minor, child abuse, disturbing the peace, and the harming of a clan head of 4 clans, the Uzumaki clan, the Namikaze clan, the Senju clan, and the Jakado clan, and the attempted complete genocide of 3 of these clans, and the attempted murder of the last male of all 4 of these clans, I sentence you all to death. The shocked group didn't even have time to fully register what the Hokage said, as kunai and ninja stars took out all of them in the blink of an eye. Hiyashi looked stunned and the Anbu had telltale signs of that as well. "Sir, is he really?" began Kat before the Hokage cut her off. "What you heard here is an SSSCL secret that can't be told to anyone or death will be the least of your worries, is that clear?" The fire in Sarutobi's eyes at this declaration sent shivers down all their spines. Even Hiyashi felt scared for the first time in a long time and even visibly cringed. All the three could do was nod. The third Hokage didn't even see as he was trying to get to Naruto. The fox's chakra was active only for a couple of seconds, but now his blue chakra was mixing into the now visible wave of chakra surrounding him and the two girls, and was streaming out of him like a broken dam. The third took 3 steps forward when the mixing chakra pushed him back 4. "We have to get to them, my daughter is in there," said Hiyashi, now refocused on the children. They felt other signatures rushing toward them from all sides, mostly of Junin's strength or higher, but it was not to be. A bright flash, Naruto, Junko, and Hinata were gone. The 4 ninja rushed to where they were, just as the lead elements made it on the scene. All the Anbu bowed. A group of Anbu got the Hokage's first order. "Monkey and Wolf, identify these bodies and get them to the morgue. You got 20 minutes, and give me their names later after my meeting, and don't let the festival goers see you with the bodies. Dog, get me Rado Namashi, Genma Shiranui, and Tiger here this instant, and when you come to my office, stay. You as well, Cat, after you fetch Shikaku Nara, Aoba Yamashiro and Anko Midarashi and bring them to my office." They bowed before shunning away. The aged Hokage then addressed a tuna-masked Anbu. "Tuna, bring me Genin Kosuke Maruboshi, Chunin Manabu Akado, and Dr. Daichi Yuhara to my office. Tell Kosuke-san and Manabu-san it's about their granddaughter and that she is okay. Then you stay as well." Like the others, he bowed before shunning off. The Hokage then turned to the others and looked around. "Horse, you will remain at the alley entrance and no one gets entry after I leave. You may go after the last body is cleaned and you clean the area. All Chunin can leave, and all Anbu and Junin will be on call for 24 hours. Spread the word, except the elders and clan heads." "Dismissed," the old Hokage yelled. All the ninja left immediately, leaving him in the clearing with the horse Anbu guarding the entrance as the monkey and wolf reappeared quick. Kaylee took a body, and shunshined away again. The third turned to a once again panicked Hiyashi. "Let's head to my office, I'll explain there." Hiyashi nodded. They started running along the rooftops. They made it halfway to the Hokage's office when a flash of smoke appeared in front of them. ND were instantly on guard. They sighed in relief when the smoke cleared and showed a small old-looking green toad with a red and white vertically stripped snow hat and scarf, and black circular glees. "Hi, I'm Waldo, and Master Jiraiya has told me to inform you that the 3 children that you are looking for have ended up into a protected waterfall, and the 2 others not of the legacy are shook up, but okay, and that the legacy is being taken care of by a doctor and that Jiraiya himself will be ring them back when he heals, as well as giving you a full report on his actions in this incident when he returns." "What should I tell him?" Hiyashi let out a sigh of relief, and the same time so did the old Hokage, who in turn looked at Hiyashi, at the same time thinking he could help his old friend ND counterpart Osumu in Takigakure with his slight money problem. Getting the hint, Hiyashi said, "It is fine if it's Jiraiya-sensei is protecting them. My daughter wanted to explore anyway, and if there are Kumo nins still hunting for a free Hyuga, she will be safer with him, so the decision is Purell." "Why, yours, Hokage-sama?" The Hokage nodded and addressed the toad summons. "Waldo-san, tell Jiraiya-kun that is a fine and agreeable course of action, and that the Hyuga clan head also agrees, but to not come back until the legacy is fully healed and alright, as well as that we will be sending a sum of money by Kakashi soon that is going to help him in Waterfall for all expenses, and to give them all the money no matter what, and not to leave until he gets there. Plus that Kosuke and Manabu should be fine with this course of action as well." The old green toad bowed with a, "Will do," and pooh. FFED back to Jiraiya. With that, we got a meeting to get to Hiyashi, so let's inform the others, spoke the Hokage with relief in his voice. Hiyashi nodded and they started running again to Sarutobi's office. Before they walked into the door, the Hokage summoned a hidden Anbu and told him to send word that the on-call Junin and Anbu alert order be cancelled, and also told his secretary that she could go home for the day. When the Hokage and Hiyashi walked into his office, all the people he asked for were present and accounted for. They all bowed. Before the Hokage could start, Kosuke standing next to a very worried Manabu who looked just as panicked as Hiyashi once was asked, "Hokage-sama, I was told my granddaughter is all right. Where is she?" half begged, half requested Kosuke in his usual mess shirt and brown wool vest, black ninja shoes, black ninja pants, an old gray tanto on his back, and white ninja tape on his ankles. He looked as old as the Hokage and had gray hair with a small ponytail on the top of his head. "My old friend, that is why we're here. She, from what I last saw of her before she was unintentionally teleported away, was unharmed, and the message I received says she's fine. That is also why I called this meeting. That's why I called you all specifically here," explained the Hokage with a determined yet neutral face. "Now Anbu, demask yourselves, I'll activate the privacy seals and close the windows." Manabu and Kosuke let out breaths they didn't realize they were holding. As the Hokage was doing those things, the dog-masked Anbu removed his mask only to see a young-looking ninja with a half-masked face, a leaf headband over his left eye, and a better view of his silver gravity-defying hair. The purple-haired Anbu Kunoichi removed her cat mask to show a pretty young female ninja, with matching purple eyes. The burly tuna-masked Anbu removed his mask to show a male in what appears to be his early 30s. He was bald, had a small scar under his left eye going diagonally down to the middle of his cheek, tall, no eyebrows, and a small but pointed dark brown pencil-thin mustache. He pulled out a gray ninja headband and started putting it around his neck, but during the whole thing he looked calm and cool. Ouse. The tiger-masked Anbu removed his mask to show a ninja headband on his head with face guards that was gray and similar to the one that the second Hokage used to wear, and a ninja shirt over his chin and spiky brown hair and big brown eyes. Shikaku, in his Junin vest and uniform and lazy atmosphere and look, asked lazily, "Lord Hokage, may I ask what this troublesome problem may be?" Sarutobi could literally see the gears in Shikaku's head working, and knew he probably figured some of the details out. The Hokage opened a drawer on his desk, got out his pipe, stuffed it with his favorite tobacco, lit it, and took a big puff. The Hokage just looked at the emboldened group, some of which were getting antsy, and spoke very casually. "What I'm about to tell you all is between an A rank and a SSS rank village secret. All of you emboldened either know some of the facts, most of the details, none of you all know some of what the others know, not everyone who knows everything is here, not all that know some things are here, and none of you all know all the details and facts, yet you all know who Naruto's parents are." This straightened everyone up. Some of you even might have figured some of this other stuff to be revealed out. It would have been nice if Murakumo, Jiraiya, and Tsunade were here as well. Murakumo and his family are on vacation in Hot Spring Country and should be back in 2 days. Tsunade's whereabouts are unknown, but I'll talk to Jiraiya about that when he returns, which should be soon. Jiraiya as well though already knows all this, but we will get to him in a minute. Simply put, young Naruto Uzumaki has activated one of his bloodlines. There was silence for a moment, but surprise was evident on several people's faces. "What does this have to do with my granddaughter, Hokage-sama?" asked Manabu, still in a slight panic. He had the typical Chunin flak jacket over a fancy brown vest and white t-shirt and light green tie under the brown fancy-looking civilian vest. He also had small circular glees with no earpieces, and shaggy, thick brown hair, and a medium-long brown mustache that ever so slightly went off his face. He was average height if not leaning on the short side, and thin. His leaf headband was over his forehead, but the leaf symbol part was over the right side of his head, and he looked to be in his earlier middle 40s. Sarutobi sighed. I think it would be better to show you all and then I'll answer questions, and explain fully what is going on. He then motioned everyone to the crystal ball which was still on his desk, and activated it, showing what was last seen on it. The killing intent flooding the office would have killed any civilian, and Kosuke and Manabu were giving off more than anyone else. Even after already witnessing it before, the Hokage, Hiyashi, and the damasked dog and cat masked Anbu still let some release. Good thing that there was an anti-killing release seal mixed into the privacy seals so no one felt it outside the office. After things quieted down, and people got their bearings, the Hokage spoke first. The crowd was condemned to death by me, and Jiraiya sent a toad to me on my way here with Hiyashi. Simply put, he was apparently doing some business in Takigakure, and sent a cryptic message that we easily understood. It stated that Hinata and your granddaughter Junko, Kosuke and Manabu are just a little shaken but okay, and that Naruto is in stable condition. There were many sighs of relief at that. Hiyashi and I informed the summons that delivered the message that they could stay there until Naruto was Oka. Why to travel, and that Jiraiya himself would bring them back while the village would pay for any fees that might occur. Is this acceptable to you, Kosuke-san and Manabu-san? Manabu was hunched over in pure relief and simply nodded. I'll explain this to my daughter Eri so she doesn't have a panic attack. While Kosuke nodded in agreement and the Hokage nodded then in understanding. Shikaku then asked a question that had been bugging him. Hokage, I can tell this is going to be really troublesome, but you said one of his bloodlines. What did you mean? Then the Hokage straightened himself out, and got his business face on, and went into his professor of all shinobi look, and continued. To answer Shikaku's question, I will also explain what I meant by some of you knowing some and none of you knowing all, and the red and black tea. 8 secrets of some of this. However, as some of the most trusted and best qualified ninjas in Konoha, I must ask you to take an oath to never reveal what I'm about to tell you unless I, Naruto, or Jiraiya give you permission. Can you swear this oath of silence? No hesitation was needed as all the gathered ninjas said, Hi, Lord Hokage. Sarutobi just sighed and started rubbing his temples before continuing. First, I would like as little interrupting as possible until I finish, and to say that Jiraiya and I are the only nay besides you very soon who knows the full story. Tsunade will be informed, and this will hopefully convince her that all is not lost and to return to the village. Knowing her, she'll come. First, what you know of Naruto's heritage is not all of it. Yes, Naruto is the last Namikaze and is the son of Kushina and Minato. However, Minato grew up in an orphanage, for he couldn't yet claim his birthright in his house, for he wasn't 15 yet or graduated the ninja academy and became a full-fledged ninja like our laws dictate. Though when he did, he started some research into his family outside the Namikaze clan. I told him what I know about his father and mother, but even I was shocked by the results, as well as Kushina's revelations on her ancestry when Minato told me his. This happened 3 nights before Kushina gave birth. Kushina was sent to us on the eve of Konoha's greatest shame. That being Konoha not making it in time of our greatest ally, Uzushiogakure, in which she is the only known survivor from. Uzu was always known for the Uzumaki clan, however there were 2 other clans that were smaller than the Uzumaki, just as famous, and also wiped out. The rivals of the Uzumaki, known as the Jakado clan, which settled in Uzu a few years after its founding, and were the holders of the water shape. Our bloodline that allowed them to shape water easily. Really, it was an advanced water affinity that they all seemed to have naturally as part of the bloodline, and plainly the command of such water. The Uzumaki were known for their fuinjutsu, in which they were the grand masters of that art, as the Akado clan were masters of the water arts. A friendly rivalry sprang up that became heated and then turned sour as the Uzumaki who lived long lives became mostly the champion of. One day, about 39 years before Konoha was formed, a very small nomadic clan of samurai falling on hard times called the Yamafuji clan, was almost overwhelmingly attacked by bandits. They were saved swiftly by the Uzukage of Uzushiogakure and the first Uzukage Haruhiro Uzumaki, who with others of his clan stumbled upon the fight as it started while on a mission to kill or capture the bandits by the daimyo of what we know as Wave Country. Neither the Yamafuji nor the Uzumaki had a single causality. The Yamafuji, which is the only known samurai clan to have women in its ranks and were really a samurai and ninja hybrid clan. Noting that fact in their ragged and desperate state, Haruhiro offered to let them set up a clan in Uzu, land, and money to get back on their feet. Yori Yamafuji, the clan head at the time as well as the other members of the clan were so thankful for the offer and saving their lives in the surprise attack, that they stubbornly offered to become the Uzumaki clan bodyguards as an eternal thanks for what they did. At this point the Sarutobi laughed before continuing in mirth. The Uzumaki were also very stubborn and didn't want the extra protection and explained that they were a bigger clan than the Yamafuji could protect. Still not giving up on their honor, they explained, they reproposed to the Uzumaki, that they would in turn just protect Haruhiro, who despite being the Uzukage was also the clan head of the Uzumaki and part of the main family as well as the daimyo, and simply be body guards to the main family of the Uzumaki. Finally the Uzumaki relented but said on the chance that they start only after the Yamafuji finish settling into Uzu, in which the Yamafuji agreed. The Hokage took a breath and continued, noticing his shocked audience in detail for the first time. He figured Shikaku had pretty much figured out what was what so far to a main degree, with Kosuke and Genma not far behind. Nonetheless, he continued, as you all can imagine, the Jikado clan was not happy that the main house of the Uzumaki clan had a different clan of bodyguards. There was no sign of a civil war, but the small island country definitely hit a rough patch. The Jikado clan's clan head Denjiro, who was an elderly man, decided to fix things with a proposal. He was very sly and knew that Haruhiro's grandson Toshiya and his daughter Hisako, a main family Jikado were seeing each other in private and did not like the way things were going in the country with the rough patch. So he decided to offer his daughter with the agreement of her and Toshiya to combine the families, and with accordance with Yori Yamafuji. If the main two families were united and swore an oath of non-aggression and pure peace, then the now restrengthened Yamafuji clan would be honored to protect both main families. All clan members of all three clans accepted, and Hisako and Toshiya were married happily. The families became really close and started a game and party night every 4 months with all three clans can attend. Peace on the island nation reigned then on for years, and after Toshiya's uncle Heiji retired as the second Uzukage, and Toshiya himself took up the title. Hisako gave birth to a girl named Kushina. The whole island celebrated, and a few more years passed, and peace continued to bloom, until they were attacked by the combined forces of Iwa, Kumo, and Omegakure. We first got word of their plight when a young male samurai lieutenant from the Yamafuji named Ishio came bearing a letter of help. We tried to talk him into staying, but he wouldn't listen. He said he was honor-bound to go back. Not long after that, Kushina came with all three clans' scrolls, important documents, list of all Uzushiogakure residents and ninja, and all three clans' entire wealth, and the 4 sacred weapons of Uzushiogakure, a plea for help, and some personal documents and letters, and instructions on the wealth. We were going to help them when the next day Iwa and Kumo attacked Fire Country, and we were forced to turn them back and watch Kiri's border as they sent random attacks toward everyone. As far as we know, only Kushina was the only survivor of Uzushiogakure. She was literally the princess of Uzu by Uzushiogakures laws, and was the last of 2 clans. She herself had the Watershaper bloodline, but rarely if at all used it, and instead used her water affinity with her prowess in Kenjutsu that even the famed Yamafujis were impressed by. What is also not common knowledge was that only the main house of the Uzumaki, in which Kushina was the heir, had the Uzumaki duo bloodline. All Uzumaki had the bloodline of a fast healing factor and long vitality, but only the main house is known to have that in chakra chains, and Naruto is her son. It took some of the room who wasn't at the mob scene a minute to fill in the blanks. Some got it immediately, and even the one at the mob scene where God smacked. Genma, who was in his usual attire of a blue bandana with a leaf headband, and blue ninja cargo pants, and Junin flak jacket, and had brown hair, and wearing blue ninja shoes, the typical leaf ninja Chunin and Junin clothes minus the headband, was so shocked that the Senbon needle in his mouth fell out and landed on the floor, and was the only noise heard for at least 2 minutes. Rado, who had what looked to be a burn scare plastered on the right side of his face, and similar attire to Genma, and had brown spiky hair, Aoba dressed in tradition Konoha Junin outfit, and red-rimmed sungles on his face, and Anko, who was wearing her tan trench coat, over a mesh shirt, black Anbu pants, and blue ninja shoes, were gaping like fish. Aoba's glees almost fell of his face. The other people there had equal shock on their faces, which made Sarutobi chuckle a bit and wish for a camera. Especially concerning Hiyashi, Haro, Aoba and Shikaku's faces, 4 men known to never lose their cool. Finally, the once cat-masked Anbu named Yugao Azuki spoke up. Are you saying that Naruto's got the bloodline of Kushina-sensei and the Jakado clan on top of the Hiraishin? I didn't even know the Hiraishin was a bloodline. Sarutobi nodded, causing a new round of gawking, but he wasn't finished yet. We'll get to the Hiraishin in a minute, but no, he has one other bloodline as well. He has a very high chance at having the Mokuden ability as well, Sarutobi threw out there with a sigh, before he started counting in his head. 3, 2, 1. What? Yelled out practically all the room. After another brief pause, the once tuna-masked Anbu named Haro Amaki had to ask, are you sure, Lord Hokage? And how does he have that? Before Sarutobi could answer, Shikaku spoke up again. It was one of Minato's parents, wasn't it? All eyes turned to him, and he seemed still lazy but with an atmosphere of surprise and shock around him as he continued, it was probably his mother, from what I can put tog. Ether, am I right, Hokage-sama? The third nodded while then continuing the story. Yes, Shikaku, the Senju clan head after Tobarama-sensei, Kiyoshi Senju didn't like that Toki Senju's daughter Amaya Senju married into their rivals the Namikaze clan, and though didn't disown her, hushed it up. Both clans were very small by this point, and the Namikaze didn't want to start something and didn't feel like rocking the boat, I could say, and said nothing of the fact that Amaya came from the Senju clan. Amaya married the then Namikaze heir, Shohei Namikaze, and they eventually had Minato. Amaya was a younger cousin of Sayuri Senju by 15 years, and Sayuri was Mito's daughter. Sayuri had 2 children named Nawaki and Tsunade. So in a nutshell, Naruto is Tsunade's cousin and his aunt, and Minato didn't find out until 3 days before Kushina gave birth due to a wide range circumstances. The silence in the room was longer this time, but then Shikaku took the floor again. How do you know he's got those bloodlines, Hokage-sama? The Hokage then motioned for Dr. Yuhara to speak up, in which he picked up in an instant, while all eyes turned to him. He was very short, had black hair with gray highlights, a doctor's coat over a Junin vest, and black Anbu Medical Corp's pants, which looked like normal Anbu pants but with more pockets, and black ninja shoes, and a stethoscope over his neck. He looked to be in his early 50s. A lot of this is new to me, but I knew Naruto's whole heritage. I'm the Hokage's personal doctor. I'm also been ignored that same title to Naruto Uzumaki. Minato, in case he died, left a letter addressed to Sarutobi with a blood seal that would only open for him or Jiraiya. The letter had instructions on part of it, as all I was informed on his heritage to test for potential bloodlines on the secrecy of death. I found that he does have the entire Uzumaki bloodlines, the Hiraishin bloodline's fast travel, and the Jakado bloodline's water shaper. After the first Hokage Hashirama, there has been no one else with the Mokuden ability. Tsunade only had a 13% chance of having it, if that, and equal chance to pee it on if she had kids. Nawaki before he was Kia had a better chance with 67.1% to pee it on, but more or less same chance to have it. Naruto on the other hand scored a 96.4% in the chance that he could have it, and or equal chance that he could pee it on, if not a percent more. We checked all the necessary blood samples we had, and he is 120% confirmed to be the heir or potential heirs of all of these clans. Genes don't lie. Normally bloodlines don't mix like this, but through my independent study approved by Hokage-sama, I found that the Uzumaki genes seem to allow multiply bloodlines to be added onto a person. The Uzumaki clan was huge, and it was very rare for a member to marry outside the clan, but there wasn't a rule against it. They just didn't do it much, and as far as we know, Kushina was the only one to be the child of an Uzumaki and an outside bloodline wielder. On the other hand, we still don't know if he definitely has the Mokudan as an ability yet, for that is a rare if not tricky to be sure about, for the Senju were very secretive and only Tsunade can tell us and or let us have access to the Senju clan scrolls on such an event. She left though 2 years before Minato did his wonderful but solemn 1 year in office, he finished with recollection in his eyes. After a brief moment of silence, the once tiger-masked Anbu named Tenzo Yamato, who during the good doctor's talk, people in the room were periodically staring at, spoke up. Since mine's transplanted, I can't answer how he can activate it if he has it, but am I here to possibly train him or something if he does? He asked curiously. This also got the attention in the other members in the room, and some realization. The Hokage smiled in a way that meant something. The problem was for the people in the room were if it was something they are going to like. The Hokage started to chuckle before composing himself once again, and speaking seriously yet started out regretful. I have failed Naruto, I really have. That does not mean I have to continue with that path. None of you here are Naruto haters. Though the village has scorned him and doesn't know the difference between the tea and the cup. The legacy he has is great, yet he despised while his family is glorified. So I as your Hokage am asking, not ordering you all, some of the most trusted ninja in the village to help an old man out. Jiraiya will probably make amends with Naruto in his own way, but for me, I'm asking you for help. Ith Naruto, and in extension you will be helping him by training, keeping an eye on him, support, and political help and pull, but my question is, will you grant it? This threw people in the room for a loop of surprise. The Hokage realized he couldn't do this alone and was asking for help. Kakashi was first and said with his patented eye smile, "Hi Hokage-sama." Others followed suit with Shikaku, then Anko, and all the way down the line, all with grins and smiles. The Hokage nodded and said, "Thank you all, we will change this village for the better and with the will of fire." Now I'm umming that since the Namikaze clan is still alive with an heir, that the Hyuga and Nara clans are still clan allies. This got a nod from Hiashi and lazy nod but with a smile from Shikaku. Good. Then that may help us in the long run. Now if Naruto does get the Mokudan, I would like Tenzo to train him with it. That will be done in secret, as will most of the training that takes place. I don't want that stick in the mud Danzo getting Naruto or people in general finding out about his abilities. They should come out gradually or until Naruto becomes Chunin. I will announce it and his abilities if he so desires after he makes Chunin. I have no doubt that the moment we ask Naruto if he wants to become a ninja, he will say yes. That got a round of chuckles from some of the others in the room. I will be paying all the trainers continuous C rank pay and a letter of accommodation after acceptable completion for ongoing training for Naruto. If Naruto doesn't have the Mokudan, then Tenzo will become the I stand to Kakashi in training Naruto in basic ninjutsu, genjutsu, and taijutsu, and you two can plan accordingly. Also Yugao, if you would be so kind to teach him a weapon if he wants, that would be great as well. I do have his family's sword. The three nodded, while Yugao looked the happiest the Hokage or anybody has ever seen, and then Sarutobi turned to Haro. Haro, I would like you to teach him Fuinjutsu, as the Anbu Fuinjutsu specialist, and ex-commander of the Konoha Bearer Corps. He doesn't seem to have a lot of patience, but both his parents were Fuinjutsu masters and it is in his blood, and so it pretty high odds that he has skill in it. You will also be working with Kakashi and Jiraiya on that. Anko, you will eventually teach him survival skills and traps, I Nation, and anything you deem fit for him since you're the best at those fields. You also could eventually help Tenzo and Kakashi with basics and fitness. Quote, he got two nods and an evil smirk that was not missed by anyone, though no one, not even the Hokage, wanted to comment on. Now for Aoba, Rado, and Genma, I know you are the only ones left in Konoha who know a duplicate form of the Hiraishin. Most people don't realize that the Hiraishin is a blow. Oddline, hell, I'd eat my hat that no one in Iowa even knows that. If I recall correctly, it takes two of you since you don't have the bloodline to move one of you and all three of you to move a person or object long distances. The Hiraishin works as a bloodline is a space-time ninjutsu first found in Minato's grandfather Junichi. It works like a teleportation, but you three and the fourth found a way around that to let you guys use it, am I right? And explain the rest please, if you can. They nodded to each other before Rado spoke. The fourth told us not to say anything about it unless it was in your company, and it was about Naruto, but I think these are unique circumstances and he probably wouldn't mind. What Genma, I, and Aoba use is an artificial form of the Hiraishin, you could say reverse engineered. It's not a true Hiraishin and it takes two or three of us depending on the situation. The fourth found it acceptable to teach Genma and me this so that we could help him in battle and for protection. And fast travel to his location, and similar ideas. He taught us a well-guarded seal that destroys itself when we are done with it. It's more of a teleportation jutsu with a yellow flash. Genma here feeds me chakra and I add his and some of mine into the seal that the fourth taught us to make, and it teleports me to the location of a sister seal to the one we have. From point A to point B, pure teleportation. The yellow flash was added to the seal by the fourth so no one would guess it's a bloodline, that's also why he had weird kunai. The kunai also stuck to the ground better and had better hand-to-hand capabilities than traditional kunai. He told us that his father and grandfather couldn't master the bloodline, so no one but his clan really knew it was one. People Yumed it was a jutsu of great proportions. Minato made this seal purely so he could get anywhere, especially places that he can't see. Genma took it from there, now with another Senbon needle in his mouth. Not seeing something is the flaw with the bloodline. So you have to add your blood to the seal to get it to work. Blood seals are more powerful than ink and that really helps. It sends an unbreakable and invisible chakra feedback to the person who activated the seal, even if they themselves didn't throw the seal. The reason it takes two of us is because one person has to hold point A while the other heads to point B. The fourth explained to us that it was a bloodline simply because the Hiraishin messes with that person's chakra to tear open a space between spaces and teleport to that point that they sense. Even if they can see it. It literally opens up the space-time barrier, but you can't go back in time. The fast travel bloodline also makes that person point A, so it doesn't need to have a second person to help you. Minato-sama told us that there will most likely always need a seal to help you navigate the space-time barrier, but a true master of the bloodline could transport to the places that he or she knows best without the seal. Also being fast helps. To transport people or things outside of us, since we three were the only ones that had that ability added to the seals, all three of us have to hold onto ourselves around that person or object and put the seal on them and direct them to the other seal. It's teleportation at its finest, but only used in emergencies since most of the seals are gone and it takes a lot of chakra. After he finished, there was a look of awe on everyone's faces. No wonder no one was as good as you at it, Minato, or besides these three have ever truly mastered it, the Hokage thought. Then he turned to the still awed and thinking group and addressed them. For the record, that explanation is most likely written down to similar effect in the Namikaze clan scroll, so that is private. I would like you all to understand that. Now Kakashi, you will at some point in time need to put Naruto's speed up at some point as a priority, and Genma, Aoba, and Rado will teach Naruto the Hiraishin when the time comes. They all nodded while Genma, Aoba, and Rado looked really pleased. It wasn't much known, but Genma, Aoba, and Rado were the unofficial students of the Yondaime and had the highest respect and devotion for him, and were also good friends of Kakashi through it. To get a chance with Kakashi included on this, to teach the Yondaime's son his dad's stuff that they taught him, was the biggest honor that they could have gotten. Lastly, the Hokage turned to Kosuke and Manabu. You two are part of the same family. He started getting Kosuke's and Manabu's attention. Better odds than not he will need some guidance here and there as advanced knowledge you two possess. Would be great if you guys gave him tips here and there and you can train him on your downtime if you'd like. It would also be nice if he could have a home to have a nice dinner at here and there since I will invite him over to mine, but it just so happens that the apartment building that he owns is right next to your home. So if you could keep an eye on him for me with your daughter that would be nice. Manabu and Kosuke smiled and nodded, but it was Kosuke who spoke. For Naruto, anything, he saved my granddaughter and protected his friends, I will do what I can. Sarutobi nodded before turning to Manabu. He'll get the same treatment as our daughter, like you we gained a grandson. Sarutobi chuckled at that, before drawing it to a close. Now we can show the village what Naruto could really possibly do, despite their ignorance. Now Naruto has some political backing, and some good trainers, watchers, and guardians. Hiashi and Shikaku, I will be sending you a summons when Murakumo returns, for I will fill him in on this. Kakashi, I would also like for you to come back here in 2 days, for I have a B rank mission for you. Yugao, I will talk to you in morning, be here please at 10 a.m. I'll send you all memos when it's time for your teaching sessions, that as long as it won't kill him and isn't too lax, you're free to do at your discretion. Now it's late and he stopped when he noticed Hiashi had his hand up and was white as a sheet. Yes, Hiashi-san, what can I do for you? Asked the aged Hokage gently, trying to figure out what this was about and why he had his hand up, since he figured he covered all the bases. Getting straight to the point, Hiashi had to ask. When Tsunade finds out what her last living relative was treated like, and as a kid to boot, how much damage do you think she will cause and who will she kill? A collective shit with one troublesome was said by everyone in the room. Sarutobi, after calming everyone down, urging Kosuke, Manabu, and Hiashi that they would be the first to get information on their daughter and granddaughter respectfully, and making a mental note to look into the main villa. GE's insurance information told them all to go home, to take the night off, and or enjoy the festival. They all started leaving the room with order. Not before Shikaku asked who would like a drink after that story, in which Kakashi, Rado, Genma, Haro, Aoba, Drive, Yuhara, and Tenzo agreed. Yugao and Anko left to find their friends Kurenai, Hana, and Hayate, with Kosuke and Manabu going home to talk to their daughter-in-law, and Hiashi talking to his wife and brother, leaving a flustered Sarutobi left in the room. Sighing with the thought, that went better than expected, now to keep Danzo and the council on the down low. He then put his crystal ball away and left for the original quiet evening he was hoping for, and thinking about a good night's sleep. All the while in Takigakure, things were happening.